Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. You should be here to see my review of the Hawksmoor top handle chainsaw that comes with a Oregon bar, can you see that, and an Oregon chain. I've put a link below to an eBay affiliate link for the chainsaw and also a spare Oregon chain. So you can either follow those and get it on eBay, free delivery for just under £90, or you can go straight to Toolstation in the UK and pick it up from there. The eBay listing is however a Toolstation listing and it's the same price, so it'd be good if you can follow that and hopefully I'll get a little bit of commission. It's the same price. I'm used to running bigger still chainsaws. Show you a couple of other saws that I own. So I'm used to using that big boy up there, which is a Stihl MS650. I had that for a number of years now, and then hiding on the shelf over there is a Stihl MS025, which for memory is 40 odd cc, and the big boy up there is, I think for memory, about 85cc. And the little thing here, and the subject of today's video, is just over 25cc, 25.4 I think it says. So the purpose of today's video is 3-part assembling the saw, just talking about briefly what you get in the box and then assembling it. That's more for beginners to the saws, so you can skip past that if you get bored. Second one is modifications I've made to the saw that all relate to some little tweaks on the carb, and finally my thoughts and review on the saw. So first of all, I'll just pull it in bits and just show you quickly how to put it together, and also what you get in the box. So I'll just quickly pull it in bits so you can see from the start. I'm going to not use the one that was not the box spanner that was in the box, but the one that I use all the time with my stillet. You'll note before I remove this, the chain brake is off. Chain brake off, you can see that that's down. When it's on, that'll pop up, which is when you push that forwards. So on this one, you've only got the single nut holding this on. That's what you've got inside. Your chain adjuster is on that, so as you saw me just slacken that gave you that to pop off. So on this one, it's easier to remove the bar out of the chain, because I've found with this it's a little bit tricky compared to the big ones. So it's very tight back here. You've got the exhaust in the way, and then you've got this bit of moulding of plastic back here. Like I say, the exhaust is here, and you've also got the clutch. It's like a reverse on the big ones. You can't see any of this. You can see this, but from the other side it's all sort of buried in the housing. On this one you can see the clutch and that, and on the big ones all you can see is a sprocket, so it's a lot easier to get the chain on and off the sprocket, whereas this, you've got this all the clutch housing there. So to get it off, I found that you have to pull it back. You have to let the chain sort of flop down away from the body, sort of flop forward. Hopefully you followed that. So in the box, picture of the box popping up now, tiny little box, as you can see by my hand on it. You get the housing, which would be like that. It would be assembled with the nut on there, so you'll pick that out of the box. As far as I remember, it was all just together like that. Chain will be in a bag separate, bar in a bag separate. Again, a close up of the little Oregon bar. You'll also get the equivalent of this. I've lost the one that came with it. It will be somewhere, but I don't know where. But it's like a little clear blue handled, little bit pointless, as I will come on to, which was one of my modifications. The carb adjustment screws are like, I think they're known as the Pac-Man style, where they've got like a little just nip out of them rather than a slot in them. So I'll show you a close-up of that, and then later on we'll get into what I've done to them. The only other thing that I think that it could be supplied for is, you'll see here there's a reference to the chain oiler, minimum and maximum, and I think that is that little screw that's hiding in the body there, just tucked behind. You can just see that there. I think that refers to that. no problem with the oiling at the moment. I've just turned it up to max. I'm not sure what I had it on it. There's not a lot in it. It's not even a full turn from lock to lock if that's the one that does it, but we'll leave it on that. Don't mind if it uses a bit of extra oil. And you'll also get I think it was that box spanner that you get, so a little one for doing that, and then a bigger one for taking your spark plug out. I just used the big one that came with the stilly. And then you'll get a scabbard to go over your bar and chain to stop you scratching stuff. I've lost that, don't know what I've done with it. That's about it. You also get a manual in the box, which is useless, which is why I'm doing this video, for people that don't necessarily know what they're doing. So it will hopefully be useful to you, because the manual is pretty useless, although it does have some basic chainsaw lessons in it, so some of that might be useful. I've not bothered looking at that. I was more wanting the carb adjustment settings and stuff, which it just doesn't have, so pointless from my point of view. So let's put it together so you know what you're doing in terms of fitting the chain. You need to make sure that the brake is off, otherwise you won't be able to, one, you'll be struggling to get that off, and two, you will not get it back on over that. So you saw me, the little bit of a struggle I had getting this on, so we'll do the same thing again, hopefully not getting it on, getting it off. I think it'll be a little bit easier to get on, so you drop it over the body like that at a bit of an angle, and you should be able to just massage it in there. Like I say, there's a lot less room to play with than there is with a proper one, big one even. There you go, just be careful you don't cut yourself. So that's on there. Just be persistent with that. If you don't manage, it is a little bit annoying. I do find it fiddly compared to the big stills. And then you want the grooves, obviously, of that chain to run in the bar. Don't worry about which way up you get the bar. I rotate it anyway each time I fit the chain, fit a new chain or a sharpened chain, and that way you're wearing your grooves evenly. You'll find with extended use, you'll get this bit of paint burning off here, and you'll have been generally the bit that's you're using the most when you're chopping logs up and stuff will be this part. You do use both sides, you'll see a bit in the videos. That is the majority of one, so you do rotate it to so your bars wear evenly. So we just hold that up, keeping the nose of the bar in the air. You don't want to let it droop on this because of the design of it. There's no lug for the adjuster. That's on the chain brake body itself, so you might find that you need to just tweak that if you can't get this to sit on. Obviously you just saw me take it off, so it's easier to get it back on, so it was set in the right place. Now just loosely put that on. Before you start tightening it, you want to keep the weight of the saw on the tip of the bar, so you'll see how it flops around. You want it to be pushed in the air when you're doing your adjustment. Leave your brake off so you can check it, and then to tighten it up, it's this one here. So you just tighten that clockwise and you'll see that chain pulls in. You don't want it super tight, but you don't want it super loose. Too tight, it's tough on your saw, tough on your sprocket, and tough on the end of the bar and sprocket as well. Run hot, you'll see this smoking and stuff. But too loose and you can lose the chain can come off, which could be dangerous. I've only ever had it come off once. Didn't really do it when it did come off, in fairness. That one's still a little bit loose. They can also just tighten up a bit once you just nip up this, so you perhaps don't want to just over tighten it initially. You can always come back to that. I'm just going to do it to there for now. Tighten that up and then we'll have a look at it. You'll tend to find out of the box new, your chain will stretch anyway, particularly after chopping into some wood. So you might need to adjust it fairly quickly and, after chopping a little bit, and maybe a bit more regular. So I've tightened that up, and you'll see just by tightening that up, even though I'd left this where I wanted, to me that is a little bit tight, because you can see there's like literally nothing on the end of there. So I think that's too tight, but we'll leave it at that for now. When I just run it, it might just loosen up a bit, but it's important that you keep the weight of the chainsaw on the nose whilst you tighten that up. So that's it, it's all assembled. Now next thing, I think I forgot to mention, this comes in the box as well. You need to mix your petrol with some 2-stroke oil. I use this fully synthetic still oil. It's low smoke and also fuel stabiliser. It's good for the saws. Easy to mix in the big containers, but this little one supplied is quite handy. The reason I'm doing a separate one for this saw than the stills is usually with all my still stuff, this is always got, so I've little left in it now, but that's always got 50 to 1 in it, and this is 40 to 1. So it shows you on the bottle what to mix that to. So you fill the petrol to that line and then just top it off to oil there, shake it about, and it's ready to put in. Got my well used and modified Skepta fuel bottle. Really handy this. Surprised I've never managed to lose this, but I've still got it. Also had a spout on the back, but I cut this off. This was for your chain oil. I cut that off and then I use that to store all my stuff in. So my chainsaw wedges, my spanners, my chain oil, that sits in there too. In a separate bottle. It's well used this. I've just noticed that that's broken, so I have to get a new one of these. But you can see it's had its use. I just filled it up from a big 5 litre bottle again and again. That's a chain oil that I use. Like I say, all tucks in there. I know I'm digressing. So that's what's going into your engine itself, and that goes in this one here. The top green one next to your primer. You can see there's a little fuel pump on it, and then this one here is for your bar oils, for your chain oil. So all that does is literally lubricates your bar and chain, and stops that overheating and burning it out and wearing everything out. Also, at the end of your bar, you've got a little hole here, and the same on the reverse side. You'll see there. Occasionally you want to just get your grease gun and just, if you use it a lot, just squirt a bit of grease in there. You can just turn it, once you've got your chain off it, you can just turn it by and then just keep pushing a bit of grease in, and it'll help you just lubricate that. You could even rub some in the ends, just to keep that in good fettle. Right, how to start it. Safety first, as I don't want to gas myself. I've just opened the door a crack. So you've got a little priming bulb here. I'm going to give that a little squash. I won't actually do it because it's already been primed. It's got some fuel in there. Turn it to on. Put your chain brake on, which means pushing it away, so now your chain won't move. And pull out this choke. You'll see this is a 3-part choke. So we'll pull it once until it just turns over, and it'll stop fairly sharpish. And then when you pull the trigger, you can hear that, and you can see that sink back. So that's totally off now. But after you've done your first, so after we'll do it once with choke on, we'll then push it in, pull it out again, and what that does is just puts the throttle on. So pull it out once and we'll just knock it over. Different ways of starting chainsaws. If you're doing it totally safety first, then you want it on the floor and wait on it and just pull it over, but I like to drop start them, so we'll do it like this. So you see it ran on and then stopped. So push that in, but don't touch your trigger, and then that'll keep this. There's a mechanism in here which basically is applying throttle, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. So you'll hear it running on hard. The brake's on, so it can't actually run on, but you'll see what I mean. Definitely on too tight, that. So hopefully you could see what I meant there. Until you just blip the trigger, this is holding the throttle on. So until you just blip the throttle, that is holding it on its second setting. So that's to help get it running. And you can just let it idle up a little bit before you start revving it. When they're brand new, you'll see on the video, but it is a little bit sluggish, and I'll come on to that point in a minute. When it was new, one thing I noticed, you really had to rev it at absolutely full revs before the blade would start to turn. I think that's because with it being brand new, the clutch springs are strong, and obviously it's a centrifugal clutch. It's got to throw those clutches out to get the drive, and so I think they were probably just a little on the strong side when brand new. So it probably took a tank or two of fuel before I noticed that easing up. So now that will start rotating at a bit less revs than what it did before, and generally it feels, now it's bedded in, broken, it feels to be cutting very well. I'm very impressed. So we've seen the assembly, we've seen how to start it. Now let me show you what modifications I made. So this is the air filter cover. Covers the carb and your throttle linkage and this and the other. You take that off, and then your filter just drops off like that because it's held on by the screw-on housing. And then that gives you access to, oh, just while I'm here, there's your little holder, because it's meant to be a climbing saw, so you can attach your lanyard to that to dangle from you. Gives you access to your plug. It's got a no name or some name I've never heard of plug on it, so I'll probably replace that with a proper one. Seems to be the same as I've got in the other saws. And then first modification I made, this housing, it was just the plastic onto the carb body. So when I first got it, before I made my other carb modification, I took this off and I put some instant gasket on the back, but that wasn't ideal. So I've modified that again, and I'll show you so you can see what I mean. This is held on just with 2 bolts, and these hold the filter housing on, but they also the bit that secures the carb on as well. The carb will still be held in place by the hoses, but you'll see what I mean in a second. So the first mod, you'll still see there's some instant gasket on there. So the mod I've made, it's not perfect because it's just what I had handy, is this rubber washer. You'd be better with some cork gasket or something. I just didn't have any, so I might upgrade that eventually when I've got a bit of cork to do it. And that's just because you just had this hard housing onto this body, so there wasn't really any proper seal there. So I think any dust, and that's obviously there's loads of dust on chainsaws, so you want a proper good seal. So that's why I did that, but like I say, probably upgrade that to cork in due course. Now the next modification was to the carb adjustment screws. So the screwdriver that you get in the kit will only, you've got 3, you've got high and low adjusters, and then under here you've got a idle screw. That's fine, but the high and low, I think they have what's called the Pac-Man style, which is just like a little nib out of the screws. So pulled the carb off, I had to take this linkage off here, and then the carb just pulls out. Yeah, I think I had to take this top off as well to undo the linkage properly. But to take this trigger housing off, take that off, pull the carb off, and then had the carb in my hand, and you can see I've actually cut into the body, but it's only like the shield of the body. I used my Dremel to cut some slots in the 2 screws, so I could just use the same screwdriver that I use on my other saws. I didn't want to go to the bother of buying a tool and then it not work, so that's what I did. Easy enough to do. So after all that, what do I think of the little thing? I'm incredibly impressed. As I say, I had to modify the choke. I could have got an appropriate tool, screwdriver, without having to do that. I didn't want to spend, they're not a lot of money, they might be £5 to £10 or something, or a kit for the same sort of money, but I didn't want to get it and then the adjustments not work. So out of the box for a couple of weeks this worked absolutely fine. I then came to it when I was doing some fencing, and I just couldn't get it to run, so I knew I needed to adjust the carb. It was when the temperature dropped a bit, and it's had some use. The adjustment might have rattled off a little bit. Point to note, there are no settings to show the base setting for the carbs on the stills, even on the body of them it tells you the base setting, so basically you screw them in all the way and then you back them out like 1 1/4 turns or whatever they say on each screw. So this one I just had to experiment a bit with it. There's some good videos online showing how to get chainsaw running properly, so I won't go into that. If you just have a look on your carb adjustment, you'll be able to work it out. But that's the only problem so far that I've had. I think it's great that you can get a spare chain. The chain wasn't from Toolstation, it was it comes with one chain. The spare chain wasn't from Toolstation, it was from another supplier. So as I said, link below to that. It's good that you can get that. I sharpen all my own chains. I've got this professional bench mounted grinder here, which makes life really easy with chainsaw sharpening. Although these ones, they're probably a bit small for the discs that I've got for that. So because it's only a tiny little chain, I might just get the appropriate size file just for tickling it up. Because when you're smashing through pallets and stuff, you're bound to catch nails and things occasionally, or chopping fence posts and this, that and the other. But it's a speedy little thing. You've got your actual useful bar length, or usable bar length, whatever you want to say, is only, you got to go from the bucking spikes to the tip. So you're only about 8" or 20-21 centimetres from the bucking spikes to the tip. But don't let that fool you. You can take on bigger timber. You can just come in from both sides, plunge cut, etc. Again, if you're a newbie, be very careful with doing anything other than well, be careful with all cuts, but you want to engage your bucking spikes when you're cutting down. And basically, for a long time I'd stick with those basic cuts, keep it away from your legs, get some chainsaw trousers, etc. Keep your hands away from the blade, don't use it. I wouldn't, although it's designed to be used theoretically one-handed, for chainsaw kicks it can easily, one-handed you can't control it, so don't be taking any risks. Leave the one-handed stuff to professional tree climbers. But basically, yeah, it packs a bigger punch than what it looks and what I would have expected it to do for the money. For just shy of £90, add on another chain, you're like 100 quid for a nice little compact thing. You can keep it in your truck, your rig, whatever. You could even, for us motorbikers out there, for you particularly in America and what have you, you can make your little carry thing for the front like I've seen people do. They look cool. It'd be ideal for something like that because it's so light. I think they're about 3.5, I think it's about 3.5 kilos, I might be wrong. But yeah, absolutely fantastic, really love it. Very happy I took the plunge. Before shelling out my hard-earned £90, I looked at reviews on Toolstation and such, and the only negative ones were pretty much, I would say with 99% confidence, the negative reviews were from people who've never used a chainsaw before, so they just didn't know how to set it up properly. So I think most of the complaints, they'd have had the same issue with any other saw. The good reviews were obviously from other professionals, semi-professionals that are giving it a go for a spare saw whilst theirs were in for repair or whatever, and I'd agree with them. It's a fantastic little kit for the money and would highly recommend. So that's all I've got to say really. I hope this has been useful. I looked for a video like this when I was looking at it and I couldn't find one, so I hope it's convinced you, and use chainsaws at your own risk. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, or if you didn't, thumbs down. Any comments, if you've used any other similar Chinese made saws, be interesting to hear from you. Or if you've got any comments or questions, if I can do anything to help you, then drop a note below and I will see what I can do. So that's it, thanks for watching and be safe.